My name is Reverend Tom Otieno. I'm a priest of the Anglican Church of Kenya, currently stationed at the Diocesan Office, All Saints Cathedral Diocese. My role is Director of Missions.
Dr. Grace Karanja. I'm a counseling psychologist and also a marriage and family therapist.
My name is Shalom Karanja Mwangi. I'm a student here at Daystar University studying communication.
Yes, there is a decline in church attendance, and even though the churches still look full, the demography that we should be worried about is actually Gen Z and teens downwards. If you look at all our churches, the biggest sanctuary is reserved for the older people, and the smaller sanctuaries are for Gen Zs and teens. So we are having less teens attending church and less Gen Zs attending church. And we have a lot of children attending church, but it is not translating to teens and Gen Z. And when you look at the demography of this country, most of this country is 34 years and below, and most of it being teenagers.
All right. There are many things that would cause one to leave a religious setup, whether a church or any other religion. And fundamentally for Christian, it could be as a result of lack of sound doctrine, or the person, or a disconnect between you and the person who is your religious teacher. In the event somebody feels that the church they are attending or the religious place they are going to no longer provides the sound teaching that they were looking for, it can be a basis for leaving that particular organization or church. Another thing would be if the person teaching behaves in a contradicting way to what they are teaching. It's normally referred to as preaching water and drinking wine. That what somebody says is not what they do. They don't honor the truth that they teach. So the disconnect between the person's behavior, the religious instructor's behavior, and what they are teaching can also be a source of frustration and may lead one to desiring to walk away from such a place. It could also be changes in life. Like I said earlier, one may reach a stage where they feel have outgrown a particular institution or organization. Like in terms of, you could also move to a different area. For example, during the COVID period, many people were not attending church physically. And then they found out that even during COVID, they could still access all the teaching, they could give as much as they wanted, they could access worship as much as they wanted, but not in a physical sense. So the fact that there are alternatives available elsewhere, it can give you an option to be there physically or disengage, or engage alternatively using technology. Another thing that would make somebody disengage from the church would be hurt. You could be hurt by someone, or you could be hurt by the system. And there are a lot of systemic hurts within religious contexts. For example, if you had decided to serve and then somebody smeared your character, and as a result you're not able to continue serving in that place, that kind of hurt can result into one desiring to disengage from the church.
People leave the church for different things, different reasons. Could be just an issue of the environment in the church and not maybe your faith. Someone who's leaving because of maybe a doubt in their faith. Faith is a personal choice, so you have to work it out for yourself. So at the end of the day, whether you choose to stick by your faith or not, it's up to you. Work it out as you see fit.
One is we haven't done very well with discipling teens and Gen Zs. We've done well with discipling children, but our teens churches are weak and our Gen Z churches are weak. Our spiritual interventions for teens and Gen Zs are not as strong as interventions for children and adults. The undoing of the church is going to come from this middle, these teens and Gen Zs. The current government is associated with the church. That perception has not left, and the church has not been able to shake itself off of that perception, and the church has not appeared to be helping the situation either. Have we as a church partnered enough with the government to help reach the kind of decisions that will help Gen Zs feel that their grievances have been addressed?
First of all, it would be caused by their developmental stage. Let's say I liked something when I was younger, but at an older age, I may no longer like that thing because it no longer serves me or serves my interest. Sometimes it could be a shift in terms of values and beliefs. Sometimes it could be as a result of hurt or disappointment. It could be costing you more than you can afford at that particular time, etc. Yeah.
My commitment is a personal choice, stemming from the fact that I find peace in faith and in the church, and that's why I've chosen to stay. It's shaped my identity, given me a point or an opportunity to find courage in the things I believe in, but it's also trained me to know how to handle challenges that I find in the world.
Each family member coexisted with each other, and they were very receptive to each other's religion. So there was no like shaming another person because they are from a different religion, or like there was no shaming another person because they were from a different religion, or looking down upon them, thinking that one religion is better than another.
They're looking for substance, meaning, substance, authenticity, and the true God. A God they can encounter, experience, and a God who can meet their needs, answer their questions, some of their existential questions, futuristic questions, present-day questions. That's what primarily they are looking for. That's why you find them dabbling with other religions, trying to find answers. Most of this departure from church structures, I could say 60 to 70% does not represent departure from God.
You don't have to leave the faith because you've had an issue with something in church. I believe most of the times it's the issues we meet in the interactions of being with other people in the community that is the church.
It's just searching elsewhere, searching for God elsewhere. That should not be a consolation for us as church. The more Lone Ranger Christians we produce, the weaker the church will get.
I have seen people who have decided instead of being in a church setting, they want to join clubs, social clubs, or they want to join organizations. People will argue that Rotary is able to do what I do in church, so they pick Rotary as opposed to church. I'm not saying they should replace one with the other, but there are people who are doing that, but the teaching is not the same. Yes.
The church can, but the church isn't doing enough because the church has the answers. But we as a church, what we haven't done is we haven't invested in Gen Z ministry and teens ministry the way we have invested in children's ministry and in adults ministry. We haven't released capable ministers into the teen space and the Gen Z space. Number two, we have not used the platforms where teens and Gen Zs are present. Their harvest is online, but the laborers are offline. So whatever it is that they are doing online, we should be terrified and so worried that we must engage online. The third reason really is misplaced priorities. Because mostly the structures we have built are full, we are blinded. So we have not learned as a church to think strategically and to think demographically. We don't ask ourselves, where is the missing demography? And why are they not here? And we are not asking ourselves the uncomfortable questions about where these young people are. Our messages are laced with condemnation for them. I don't think we should do that if we haven't tried to reach out to them. Otherwise, one day, by natural attrition, the adults will fade into the background. And then you'll have all this space for who?
They return because probably they have gone through therapy and they have healed. They could return because they feel the church or the religious institution was having a particular need that is not being met now.
God established the church for purposes of community, accountability, and fellowship.
I have had points in my life where I found it hard to stay by my decision that I'm going to stick in the church. And what I would say kept me there is what I began by mentioning, which is a point of peace. I find peace in my faith. It anchors me as things are, I guess, blowing from all directions. So that's why I stay.
It could also be that they have made other attempts to affiliate to other groups and they failed or became more frustrated. And so in comparison, they would feel like this particular one was having me better. So you feel like the prodigal son going back home. But in some senses, one may feel they don't want to go back at all. There are those who go back because they want to belong again. They feel that that place was serving their interest. But there are others whose heart may be deeper, so they no longer want to go back. They feel like their trust is violated. And rebuilding that trust, I tell you, it will take therapy, more prayer, and other self-care ways so that one can reach a place of healing. And then again, one may discover, you know what, I can find the same services, but in a different place. So they may never go back to that particular place. That's a philosophical question because religion is about rituals and set of dogmas, but spirituality could be the way you perceive your individual relationship with God. And you can be spiritual and not be in a religious setting. You can be in a religious setting and not be spiritual. Some people may be deemed as more religious because they fit in those systems. But spirituality is deeper than religion, and the depth only one can be able to tell because there's actually no spiritual meter. No one can totally measure how spiritual you are, how spiritual I am, or how I express my spirituality. No one can totally ever measure that. So our parents, our Sunday school teachers, they will tell us it is wrong to question this kind of a person. But should I find myself in a situation where I'm questioning a religious authority, first of all, I will experience a lot of shakiness because I'm trying to do something that is forbidden. It's forbidden by the society, by our morals, by our upbringing. It's forbidden in a sense. So the moment I find myself questioning religious authority, then I'll be thrown off balance because I'm doing something I have not done before. But that situation doesn't prevail throughout, because if the questioning is related to the fact that I desire to achieve accountability, or I want an authority figure in the religious setup to be accountable, then eventually when you are completely sure that this serves the interest of the church and the people, and also it serves the interest of the fact that this is the faith we proclaim and so we behave this way. If I am behaving in a contrary way and one begins to question, then the person questioning, after they being thrown off balance, they will reach a place where they're in a plateau to make effective inquiry. And it is not the done thing, because people do fear questioning religious people. They are afraid of being cast. They are afraid of being thrown out of the community. And so it's a difficult place to find yourself in. But it's not necessarily entirely wrong to question when it's an issue of accountability, or when it's an issue of your faith aligning with what you say in terms of moral conduct. If there's a misconduct, then it should be questioned. In psychology, we talk about DSM-5. Should religion cause me not to take my child to hospital, then my therapist should be able to question. If religion tells you that you should give everything you have so that God will bless you or you will find a place in heaven, that that should be questioned. If religion tells you should hide in a cave and then wait for the coming of the Lord, that should be questioned. If it tells you should fast until you die, that should be questioned. Questioning authority figures in religious setup is not entirely wrong. But I think we need to grow to a place where wisdom prevails when we are doing this kind of questioning.
It's a question that should be asked more, and we should demand answers.
My generation, I'm X generation, my generation do value a lot structures and systems. But the generations after me, they may not view structures and systems the way we view structures and systems.
I think that for the most part, people's disillusionment is with church and its structures and its weak programs, or the lack of programs, total lack of programs.
Should that affect their faith or their devotion to their religion? It wouldn't be advisable, but should it affect their presence in religious setting? But in a sense, they still remain, their core beliefs still remain, there is God, there is heaven, there's Jesus, there's redemption. Then in that sense, we will not be saying that it's an entire overhaul for systems.
I think it's both. The church should position itself for change, which means read the change from a distance, ask God what we should do about it, confer and come up with strategies to capitalize on the change, and then fourthly, drive the change. And even inviting some of those Gen Zs to be part of our change process. Now, for the people, we must filter the change process. What is negative we do not want. What is positive we want to turn into productive energy. Second thing the people need to do is to engage in a lot more dialogue forums. Conversations must happen. And thirdly, the people should create help avenues. What are those wananchi-driven initiatives where people can get jobs, advertise for jobs, where people can be helped, can access credit on soft terms, person whom you cannot charge more than 5% interest.
That you shouldn't just go away without seeking a recourse or seeking therapy. If it is trauma, then you should address the trauma that happened in the setting that caused you to disengage from church. And whoever is listening to that particular person should be able to validate their heart or their need so that you're not just dismissed.
Yes, the church is a community that is supposed to provide nurture and care, help with our spiritual journey, but the church as a community made up of human beings will hurt you. And I'm going to repeat that. The church will hurt you. Sometimes it's accidental, sometimes it's intentional. But the bottom line is that you will get hurt in church.
And then it's important to differentiate the character of God and the character of our religious authority.
And don't lose your faith on account of our weakness.
So for someone who has left because of the environment, I would just advise them that it's okay to be where they are, but to work their way forward, not to just stay in their current state, and to work their way forward with their faith and hopefully maybe a new environment, a new place where they can find comfort.
And one is also allowed to reclaim their faith, whether they are in a religious setting or not, so that their journey of faith does not necessarily have to be tied to an institution, although fellowship is encouraged.
Take time to forgive those who have hurt you.
It's not mandatory for you to have faith, although it's an excellent thing to have faith.
It's good to interrogate soberly, how did this hurt happen? Thirdly, find a person who is not part of your church situation. Journeying alone is a dangerous thing. You are not very sure that all the thoughts you are having, that you're supposed to be having. So you need a filter. This person is a filter. Once you find a person like that, then begin to reconnect with the healthy church. Find another community. Even if it's 3-4 people. Now this is different from that individual who helps you. But find about 3 or 4 people who you can meet, huddle together, even if you don't all go to the same church. Have Bible study, pray and cry with each other, open your hearts to each other.
Don't give up on your faith or in the church or your religious affiliation. It has its benefits.
On behalf of church leaders who have had people to say, I am very sorry for your pain.